ready to run the proper audio. All right, guys, we're back for another episode of the EMPI Insider, and man, today is going to be a wild ride. I got a feeling. Just spending the last little bit of time chopping it up and preparing, and just overall hanging out has been a hell of a a world tour, let's just say. And I'm stoked. You guys saw the advertisement going out. We put it out there. The man behind the scenes of the Mint 400, and more importantly, Mad Media and the stuff that they're doing, sitting down with us here today. I'm super stoked to have you, man.
Man.
Matt, I'm just thank you, first of all, for making the time.
Of course.
Just come sit down and talk about off-road racing, talk about tequila, mezcal, the future, and everything in between. So you guys get your questions coming in now, because it's going to be hang on, it's going to be a hell of a ride today.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
So the face with the name, I mean, some of you guys know, some of the audience may not know, but I mean, you own the Mint 400. I mean,
yeah, well, I always like to say that it owns me, right?
Yeah.
Me and my brother have been running the Mint 400 now for the last 10 years, and we've been able to grow it significantly into the largest off-road race in North America. Had an impact all over the world. Feel really fortunate that we got to take the helm of something that started in 1967 in Las Vegas. And, it's part of the fabric of not just off-road racing, but American culture, with the book and movie and Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. So, it's really cool. I described it to you before. It's like being a kid and buying Wrigley Field. It's like, hey, we just bought Wrigley Field, right? That's what it felt like. And then, consequently in working with my brother and my team, and, lots of volunteers, and, really the whole off-road culture has contributed to it. We were talking earlier. It's like I get a lot of help and advice from my predecessors still to this day, like people like Sal Fish. And of course, I have Bill Savage, who's pretty much wrote the rule book on off-road racing, still with us and working with us. So it's really cool.
That's it. I mean, guys, like I said, buckle your seats. We're going to be ADHD in full effect on this show. We're going to talk about the fabric of off-road racing and how it plays. I mean, there's a reason why we're having you here, and the fabric of it being woven with Volkswagens and Sal Fish and just so much stuff. And we've already got guys commenting, and shout out to Scott Smalls and Matt, should I race the class 11 again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of why we're here is, you gave me the tour of the facility, which is amazing. And, my first car was a VW. I've raced class 11. I've raced a 16, 10, 9, 7, like lots of different classes. And you know what? I want to race more of the different classes, because I really enjoy that analog process in racing. So, we're here to help spread the gospel of off-road racing and get more people up off their ass and out racing. And it doesn't matter, what you have. I mean, that was a big thing we were talking about earlier, is there's all these race chassis, thousands of them that are sitting out there that aren't being raced. And you guys have all the parts for those if it's a VW powered car. So it's not expensive. You can do it with your friends in your garage. Our boy Shreddy Life, right?
Yeah.
He's been showcasing his Class 11 and the build, which has been really cool. That it's those are the things that I look for to point at and go, see, you can do this too.
Yeah. I mean, you're echoing exactly what the whole mission statement is with the EMPI Garage and the stuff that we're trying to do. And we saw it come full circle. We talked about, again, pre-show production stuff, but with, building a car in your garage or in, whether, not everybody wants to race, right? There's guys that are just like to go out pre-run or hang out, or when they go testing, bring their buddies' cars out. So if we can inspire you just to even work on your car, just your valves, or start building a roll cage and just go out, but then you could take it all the way to that next level. Like we had last week in the show of like having a full-blown trophy truck built in the garage for that reason, to just go race Baja, which kind of goes back to how the whole off-road thing got started.
Yeah. I mean, this culture started with the average guy building vehicles in their garage. And it started with the VW platform and the Jeep platform. And, it was due to World War II veterans had come back and they were bored. And so the Eakins brothers ran the peninsula, and some guys in Vegas saw that and thought that was cool. And the whole thing just exploded. And, but it was always street vehicles and street bikes, right? Like before there were dirt bikes, these guys were racing, street bikes. And we've brought that back with the hooligan class. These guys racing Harleys now, which is crazy. I mean, it's rad. I love it because it's a similar thing. It's a very inexpensive way to come out and have the experience. But I don't know if you've ever been on a Harley on the street. They're not very comfortable, let alone on our course. Our course is rough.
I saw the stuff that the guys from Heat Wave were doing with that thing was just, that's not a light machine by any means. No. And to be throwing that thing around for a chunk of miles, and let alone through the course that I already giving me anxiety thinking about trying to accomplish. But dude, I think that's what drives people. It's that sense of accomplishment that you tame the wilderness to a point.
Oh, for sure. That's, conquering the mighty Mojave Desert is a big deal, challenging yourself, challenging your friends, going out and getting a little scared, cutting the umbilical cord and putting yourself in a position where you're like, okay, I might have to spend the night. I've slept many nights in cars in Baja with a little campfire. I was a little hungry and a little cold, but I didn't die. And it teaches you that. It gives you the opportunity to put things into perspective. We have all these stressors of our daily life. And I think that we need these reset buttons like that to, be humans.
I think you brought up a really interesting analogy there. And I think I start to connect the dots, right? And I just, with that mental toughness aspect of it, and listening to Tyler, who's the owner of that trophy truck, and he's a retired special ops officer. And it's like, dude, they're going to mentally break you down and telling you to quit and get out of line and go to the next. And I can see how that would tie in to just scratching that itch of sure, needing that sense of accomplishment that you can't find anywhere else.
I mean, that's why we started our military challenges, because military have been a part of the DNA of off-roading since the beginning. They founded it, and we have tons of active duty and retired military that continue to race with us. So it's important for us to talk about that as a part of our culture. And it's a warrior culture. So you come back from war, and what do you need? You need more war, but you need it in a way that you can manage, right? That you can still be a part of normal society, and then go out and have these battles and come home, and the camaraderie with your friends, and your colleagues and your family. That's all part of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I just sit here kind of taking it all in, and it echoes some of the stuff that we tried to do amongst the race team itself, is like the camaraderie, the traveling to different events is fun. The setup and the campfire stories and the shit talking. And
For sure.
the small tails to turn into tall tails and everything else. But then when you're in that zone, that when you're in battle on the race course, that you're in it, man, and you're in it. But at the same time, one of your fellow racers will stop and help you and flip you back over or do whatever is needed to do. It's just such a powerful thing when you break it down on the macro kind of level. It's pretty sick.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a great culture, off-road racing culture. People will give you their, they'll give you all their tools. They'll give you their fuel, whatever they can do to help you, to keep you going again. And that's one of the cool things about it, is that family aspect, that camaraderie. And that's why I think what you guys are doing here is really cool, with the garage and supporting racers and, helping illustrate that you don't have to have $1 million budget to come racing. I mean, I love trophy trucks. They're amazing vehicles. But then, there's the average guy can't necessarily afford that, but he can go build a Class 11 in his garage with his buddies and come out and race the Mint. You can race the Baja 1000. You can race multiple other races and have an amazing experience. I could tell you personally that one of my funnest experiences with racing Class 11 has been, the ability to have the time in the vehicle, and then even the downtime when you're broke out in the middle of somewhere, you got to laugh at it. You know what I mean? You turn around and go, look how beautiful this is. If I'm going to be stuck somewhere, I'm not in an office, I'm not in traffic, I'm in the middle of Baja or in the middle of the Nevada desert, and it's pretty rad.
Yeah. I mean, I like all those parts so broken down. I don't want to hang out and sleep in the car or buy the car so the Omega will celebrate at the end and still be on the desert. But no, I get exactly what you're saying. I mean, it's just, and I'm still in my infancy stages of this whole off-road aspect of things. So it's been a rough learning curve, and I've been fortunate enough to meet guys like you and the Slettons and many others to kind of point us in the right direction along with it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's about for us, is sharing it with people and showing people how rad this culture is and the experiences are, and bringing people in and going, hey, come on in. The water's fine. You're going to have a good time. Bring your family and your friends. And I really don't think that there's another motorsport that has the biggest fun per dollar or biggest bang for your buck as off-road. I mean, I'll admit that I'm impartial, but I've done participate in lots of different forms of motorsports, and the amount of time you get in the car, the amount of adventure that you have, the people that you meet, the countries that you go to, there's nothing like off-road racing.
I mean, yeah, that's well articulated, to say the least. Shifting gears on a couple of things too, with it's not just a Mint that's the day-to-day operation for a race that happens once a year. You guys also have a big marketing company and a media company, right?
Yeah, Mad Media. We've been around now for almost 27 years. And we were talking earlier, kind of some of our things that people know us for is, of course, starting, producing, and directing the Gymkhana series with Ken Block. My brother and I produced and directed the first 3 films. Then we went on to create the XP1K series with Polaris and RJ Anderson. And we do a lot of work like that, a lot of content work, big content work, small content work. And we really love doing that. Working with my brother is such a rad thing. Like, we have great arguments, but it's one of those things where it's all like idea driven. Like, hey, what we should try? Let's pitch this. Let's see if this company will get behind this and we can figure out a way to fund it and make it a reality. Because one of our biggest takeaways from some of the content that we've created is that we want to show people what we see. We're very fortunate that, I've stood on all the different race courses and watched trophy trucks do incredible things. I've watched Pro 4s do incredible things. I've watched rally cars do incredible things. And we want to capture that and bring it to people so that they can fall in love with these motorsports the same way we have. And that's kind of part of our job with Mad Media, is to create compelling content, whether it's action-based or more story-based. Like, we thrive on that. We were talking earlier about different stories, and I always see it in my head in cinematography and shots and a shot sequence, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how we can tell that story, right?
Yeah.
And I yearn to do that with everything. It's kind of almost a sickness, right? Because you're like, you want to show people how beautiful, these relationships between people, between the vehicles, between the environment, and show how magical it is, and let people find it and fall in love with it the way that we did. So yeah, we do a couple of things there too.
Is that all? I mean, got any sneak peeks you can let about any new special project you might be working on that we can see coming soon?
Actually, there's one that's coming, and it's pretty different. It's a small project. During this whole lockdown thing,
Yeah.
we shot a piece with the Strappas brothers, and we'll be releasing it here in the next couple of weeks. And I think it'll spin a lot of people. People look at it and kind of go, I don't understand, but that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
Is to do something like that's a little bit more a statement about where we're at in the world, and off-roading's place in it. So it'll be an interesting one. That one's coming. But no, we're working on all kinds of content. We were talking earlier about the different media platforms that we own, UTV Underground and Off-Road Racer. And I've actually really enjoyed, as of lately, being able to write a lot of stories and interview a lot of racers for Off-Road Racer, because a lot of these guys I have personal relationships with, not just as a promoter, but they're friends of mine. So, I can look at a situation and go, hey, this guy needs a leg up. He needs to be promoted. What he's doing needs to be recognized. And, fortunately or unfortunately, there's not many other people doing this right now. So I feel compelled to do it. I'll give you a good example. Was there's a video coming up that we did where I got to interview Casey Curry. He's a good friend. I've known him now for 14 years, and he won Dakar this last year. And he's the first American to win it in on a four-wheel vehicle. So incredible historic moment.
Yeah.
But then you come back to this country and everybody's like, what was it?
Yeah.
Right.
Dakar.
So I literally emailed the White House. I'm like, yo, we need to have a parade. Let's do this. Right. Of course, they didn't get back to me, but at least we can shed some light on his accomplishments in his career.
It's interesting. It's from a marketing guy to a marketing guy at times, it's interesting, the levels or the things that we like, if you strive, just say strive for the White House to acknowledge something, and you settle somewhere in here, it's still hell of a lot above the bar of a lot of people really want to do, but just like the vision of where you want to take this thing and kind of where you're going with it.
Well, I mean, we learned something, through our years of working in action sports, is that nobody's coming to save us. We've got to do it for ourselves. Right. So we have to do it brick by brick and work together and move forward and make sure that we're building a culture that we want to live in and that we want to own businesses in. Right. And so, as hard as it is sometimes to operate with that mindset, that's the way we look at stuff. Is for sure. I would love the White House to acknowledge an off-roader. Don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but that's okay, because we're going to do it for ourselves. Just like, we were talking earlier about all the different growth and things that we've been able to implement for the Mint. I really feel like we're 10% to 30% of where we want to be or where we can go with it. And that's not based on what I've seen in off-road. That's based on what I've seen with X Games and the UFC and the Goodwood Festival of Speed and Daytona and Speed Week and those types of events. So, people always ask me, oh, don't you feel like you're in competition with the other off-road races or leagues? And I said, no, I'm in the competition with the NFL and the NBA. Right. Those are the people that we're trying to steal mind share from, because I think what we have to offer is more valuable. Right. Like if we, from this podcast, if we could turn one kid on to going and making a class 11 car and coming out and racing it, and he has that experience with his friends, then we've won. Right.
Absolutely.
And that's much better than, and I'm not taking anything away from those traditional sports, but if you're going to sit on a couch and watch the NBA, it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. I mean, you just, what you say right there resonates exactly what we're trying to do here. Some people take what I do for the me. And it's like, dude, I'm not. I recognize and being around this hobby for well over 25 years, really entrenched in it, to watch it change its dynamic, right, and shrink in a lot of ways. And I go, man, if we, or I mean, i.e. me, don't do my part working at the global, pinnacle of Volkswagen, then I'm doing a disservice for the rest of the community. And that's really what we try to strive for here, is to share those insights, those behind the scenes the shows and the shenanigans that go on in the workshop, and the snippets on the freeway where we're going, or whether it be Magnus Walker or going out testing with Wilkie and the guys, or workshop here, or something cool that we're building. We're just trying to ignite that little tiny desire to try something new.
Sure. You're trying to share the stoke, and that's really what it's all about.
We have a good question from Chris Hill. Says, hey, Matt, great race this year, but unfortunately we can't make it for 21 because of COVID. Great idea running the bikes on a different day. Can you talk more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working on this 24/7, 365 days a year. And again, I have access to an incredible mind share. So like when I get stumped on what I should do with bikes, it's like I get to call Ricky Johnson.
Yeah, just
right?
Ricky Johnson.
Yeah, hey Ricky, what do you think about this? And usually he goes completely ballistic on stuff that there's no way we could do, but he's right, and as well as Johnny Campbell and Larry Ragland and Larry Rossler. I mean, I get to ask these guys a lot of questions, and we get a lot of guidance from them. So, from a logistics standpoint, it's difficult to run two different race courses, but in many ways it's better because, we have to cut the bike race short in order to allow the vehicles to go out, because we can't mix them anymore, just for safety reasons. And so that drove me crazy. I was like, I hate Grand Prix finishes. I've been, victim to them, where I'm going out my third lap and the guy waves me in. And I'm like, man, I don't even get my third lap. And with the bike guys, sometimes that's just 2 laps. So they're only getting 1 lap. So I don't ever want a racer to come up to me after a race and say, I didn't feel like I got what I paid for, or I didn't get enough. That's a terrible feeling for me as a promoter, but I also know what that feels like being a racer, right? Is you go home and you feel like you didn't get to finish. It's incomplete. Right. And fortunately, Killian, my cousin who works with us, has been doing a lot of the mapping, and remapping and making adjustments to make that work. And we were able to put that together for this year, and we'll likely continue that for the future, because that gives the bike guys a unique course that's specific to bikes, as well as more time to finish. Right. That way we don't have to go, all right, you're cut off. We can give them much more time to finish. And that was really, what was the driving force behind making that decision. The other one is just bike course. It's like everybody who came and raced the Mint knows that we put together a bike course, that we didn't just go, yeah, you're just going around the car and truck course and have a nice day. We could have done that. We didn't do it because we didn't feel like that would show respect to the bikes. And we have a huge amount of respect to the bikes. That's the gateway drug for off-road racing. That's how I started in off-road, was, a bike.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's interesting to me, and again, we're still getting to know one another, but just in a little bit of discussions with you, one of the things that's consistent with what you're kind of preaching to and about is that, oh, I'm going to call so-and-so, or I'm going to call this person, or I'm going to reach out to that. It's your open-mindedness to what you guys could do, maybe want to do or try to do, but it's not just your way or the highway. It's really interesting.
Well, it's that old adage of like, you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. Right. And unfortunately, I understand that I'm not necessarily the smartest guy about every subject matter. Right. So we have, this amazing culture with these amazing people that are incredibly smart, and all I have to do is reach out to them and ask them for help or input. And, that goes all the way down to, our tech director, Bill Savage, who I have a ton of respect for. I mean, this guy's built suspension for the Mars rover, and, you know, among many trophy trucks and so on. So it's like, people have no idea. It's like when they're asking about, you know, some question, it's like, I don't have to research it. My research is, Bill, what do you think? And he'll tell me all the reasons why, you know, we should be doing it one way or another. And, you know, I'd say 99.9% of the time, I agree, you know? So I just think that's being smart, you know, is look at the knowledge base around you and use it.
Excellent. And I think the second part of that question, and another reason why I personally wanted you here, was to really talk about the doom and gloom that's been kind of surrounding just the country as a whole, but definitely all the promoters, the guys that make their living off a lot of this stuff. What are you doing, and kind of what's the prognosis of all the COVID BS that you guys are dealing with for that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, it's rough, because more than anything, what it does is it creates confusion and doubt, right? So we are very fortunate. Excuse me. We were very fortunate this year that we were able to get the mint done before Vegas closed. So, but we had a plan going into it, and we had a backup plan. And fortunately, we didn't have to implement the backup plan. Now, fast forward towards October, and we were able to do UTV World Championship as well, and race 300 UTVs in Lake Havasu. And the same thing, like, we were able to get that event done without a hitch. But the amount of doubt and fear that everybody has about if the event's going to happen, you know, all the different parameters, that's been the hardest thing to overcome. You know, and the rumor mill, you know, it's
That's
like
the killer.
I remember with UTV World Championship, people are calling, they're like, hey, we heard the Indians aren't going to let you race. And I'm like, what Indians are you talking about? Because we're all in BLM land, and we have a fantastic relationship with the Bureau of Land Management, you know, in Nevada. They've been great to work with, even under the conditions that we're working with now. So we haven't had that much of an issue. I will say we've had to do a lot of additional planning and come up with new, you know, what ifs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the mint's happening, you know, 200% it's happening. The race is already green lit. We may, you know, depending on how things are, have to make some adjustments with spectating. But other than that, you know, we're rocking, man. Like, and even with spectating, we've already opened up parking pass sales, you know, okay. And we already have, you know, we've already opened up entries. So we already have, I don't know where we're at. I have to look at it now, but we already have quite a few entries, you know, and we're just trying to be professional and ahead of it, and make sure that everybody can plan on coming and plan on having a good time at the event. I mean, one of the fortunate things is we are an outdoor event, and we have a little bit of room in the Mojave Desert to spread out. So I think we're going to be just fine.
That's awesome.
And all that vitamin D that we're getting too. Let's not forget about that.
I take it I need to get my shit together. We need to get our team registered, because I guess you're doing something different too this year with your starting positions and everything else, correct?
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's the tradition of how races has been run in the past is really a bad business plan for a promoter. You don't even know how many people are coming to your event. The day of the event, you're still having people sign up, and we just can't manage logistics that way. So we've got to run it like every other concert or event that you go to, where it's like, hey, first come, first serve. So the order in which you register is the order in which you qualify if you're having qualifying classes. So get your registration in early and get it taken care of. And we have a multi-stepped payment program, so you're not paying the full pop right away. We're giving everybody plenty of time to pay and all that stuff. So we're being really conscious of budget, and there's a lot of people right now that don't have jobs, and so we're being very conscious of all that too. Very
cool. When it comes to budgets and gripes and entry fees, that's really where we're trying to go with it. Is as a promoter and as what you do, we always see it in the forums. I mean, I'm sure you see it in the UTV stuff, but people griping about, the cost of entry fees and the cost of like that. What's the best way to try to explain that so people kind of swallow that pill a little bit cheaper? Because it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, but you have to also put it into perspective of what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
You're paying a price to come race in an off-road race in the Mojave Desert amongst hundreds of vehicles that we have to provide safety, insurance, permits, even the crappers cost money,
Yeah.
So there's a very high cost to it. And the other thing too, is there's this fallacy that because you're racing a class 11, that's costs us less somehow than a trophy truck. It doesn't. All vehicle costs are relatively the same. But what we've done is we've looked at specific classes and we've lowered the entry fees because we're like, hey, these guys are budget racers. So let's do what we can here. And the other thing that we've done is we've gone around and been talking to a lot of the companies that make products for those classes and starting to get prize purses for each one of those classes so that they can win some money back, because that makes it fun and exciting, So we, all I could say is we really work our butts off on, trying to keep the entry fees as low as possible, and still be able to put on the Great American Off-Road Race at the level that it needs to be.
Yeah, I think I hate to use the word spectacle, but I mean, it really is something impactful, and to watch just the content and the videos of people just, pushing their cars down the road or the cruise down Vegas Boulevard with trophy trucks and dirt bikes and side by sides and just the whole event. It's you're paying for that, the right of entertainment essentially.
Well, and it is a spectacle. I mean, there's lots of races that you can go race or club race with your friends and have a good time and do it way less expensively. And that's totally cool. And I think those races are important and they need to exist, especially for people to start out in. But that's not what the Mint is. The Mint is the biggest, baddest off-road race in the world, and it has the most coverage. We've had 10 years of actually 12 years of consecutive television coverage. Our live stream last year hit 800,000 uniques. I mean, that's massive. And that's all stuff that we're self-producing. So, we're putting every dime back into, the value of it and making sure that the sponsors know, the spectators know, the racers know, it's important for us to showcase the Mint as a world-class event so we can show the world what our form of racing and our culture is about.
Yeah. Anyway, just that little topic right there streamed about 5 comments to real quickly, because I think financially, even if we're in the middle of a pandemic or out, it's still a financial impact. I mean, racing isn't cheap in any form, whether it's RC car racing or off-road car racing, it's all expensive. So, but just to know that, like Larry Negrete chiming in right now says, we appreciate the effort to lower cost and provide more payback. Most organizations do not listen to a racer feedback at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I can wholeheartedly tell you that we're different. It's like my brother and I and Killian, we listen to people. People call me personally and they give me advice and they go, hey, you need to think about these things. And we take it all into consideration. Last thing we want to be is, dictating from on high of how things are going to operate. I mean, we're part of this culture as well. And we want people to come and have a great time and be stoked and, and pass it on generation after generation and bring all their friends and family. That's the point, is to go have a good time. So we definitely listen and try and implement, as best we can.
Yeah. Chris Hill chiming back in again. It's not cheap, but the Mint 400 is one of the only racers, races, I guess, that you get bang for the buck. The VIP area and the stadium start and the drive through the town.
Yeah.
It's just that whole
trifecta,
look, right?
We go out of our way to build value in this. I mean, look, the parade, it's a pain in the ass and it's expensive. You know what I mean? It really is.
All the police and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive, but I look at it and I'm like, well, that's what we want to do. I mean, we need to tell Vegas that we're here. Vegas has a couple million people inside Vegas at any given point. I want 200,000 of them
Yeah.
out watching the race every time we do the race. And that's just Vegas. That's not even talking about, all the incoming traveling people. So, you know, all those different things make up the elements of the Mint. It's not one thing. And, again, as expensive as it is for us and as much of a pain in the ass, we love doing it because we are here to showcase the spectacle of off-road racing, and everybody's a part of that. It's not just the trophy trucks, it's everybody all the way down to the class 11 guys, to the bikes, class 7, 8, 6,100 guys, everybody, that's what makes the Mint great, is that it's this huge cross section of people that make it up.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And then if you think about too, like just the guys that have built their own projects, or little Billy's on his dirt bike, grandma at home, don't know what, racing some Mint 400 desert race in Vegas this weekend, but then to see him on the street, chucking a wheelie for a second or whatever he's doing, but it just gives them an opportunity to showcase and then to relate that.
Well, we're huge proponents of youth racing. We started UTV youth racing 6 years ago at the UTV World Championship, and we knew that this was going to be a huge thing. And now it's blown up. And, last year we had the kids race with us for the first time at the Mint because, we were all sitting around and go like, how cool would it be if you're a 6-year-old kid and you get to do a few laps of the infield of the Mint? If you have that experience as a kid, now you're a lifer.
You're hooked.
Right? So we did it for the first time last year, and we're going to continue to do it ongoing. We saw the growth of it at UTV, at our other race at UTV World Championship. And it's been cool, man. And those kids have gone from being, kids that are racing 170s and 570s to graduating to 1000s to, one of the coolest things that I got to do earlier this year was go to Dakar to cheer on Blade Hildebrandt and Mitch Guthrie Jr. in their debut at Dakar. I mean, both those guys were trophy cart kids.
That's cool.
Cool. And now they're putting the fear of God in all the Europeans, right? So
fearless, man.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see. And we have this huge wave of kids coming. I mean, massive. I couldn't tell you how many kids are coming through that ladder system of now racing in the 170s and the 570s and moving up to Razor 1000s and other UTVs as well. It's really cool to see, because by the time they're teenagers, they have more seat time than you or I, right? Yeah. Like, it's crazy, right?
I know Eddie, the engineer over here, was we were watching the whole Baja prep and everything else. And
Jack's Red Line.
See, I told you. He's like,
that's just a race name.
Yeah.
That kid.
The kid's rad. I mean, and that's the thing that I really love. And it's a challenge for us as a promoter, because we have to always work the safety side of it and make decisions. But like a couple of years ago, when Robbie's son started racing, Casey Folks was still around, and we were looking at him, and Casey and I are arguing about it, and he really was emotionally attached to the idea and wanted to make it happen, but felt, hey, this is a kid, this is a 9-year-old kid, a 12-year-old kid, like, we got to protect him. And then we went and saw him drive, and we're like, oh my God, this kid, he's fine. If half our field could drive as well as this kid can, we'd be in great shape. So that's a really cool thing to see, both the evolution of kids starting at a younger age, and then the relationship between the father and sons racing. Like, we just saw that play out this year at the Ball 1000. You have the McMillans, and Luke won it this year. And I was there when Luke got his first 10 car. And, I was like, wow, this kid is going to be good. At that time I was working with his cousin, Andy, who obviously is amazing.
Yeah.
But, their grandfather raced, passed that legacy on to their dads. Their dads raced, passed that legacy on to their kids. And I'm sure it'll continue to go, so it just really, for me, as a racer, as a promoter, as a off-road, enthusiast, watching that evolution through the families happen is really cool.
Yeah, it's been just neat to watch. So I dig it. John Mead chiming in. He's like, I raced the Mint 100 on a 3-wheeler back in '83.
Oh, now he's going back.
Yeah.
Dude. Now he's going back. It's so funny because we get all these crazy emails and calls, and of course the quad guys are relentless. They're like, we want to race quads, and I'm like, dude, there's only 25 of you guys. I'd have to make a whole new course. But then the other one that we've gotten as of the last couple of years is people are, get back into 3-wheelers, and they're like, hey, we want to come race. I'm like, buddy, there's no insurance plan in the world that'll cover me for that. I'm sorry,
Mix a dash that and some the old Honda Pilots.
Oh God, yeah.
Arm taker offers.
Yeah, exactly. We probably get away with it in Mexico, but not Nevada, not under.
How's that been? I mean, and this again, you don't have to disclose some of this stuff, but I mean, dealing with insurances. And you had a great question from one of the EMPI employees today talking about the environmental issues and stuff like that. I mean, just the amount of bullshit that you've got to weather is unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a lot, right? But I'll tell you what I told the gentleman earlier, which is that, when we started this, honestly, I was pretty intimidated, because my whole life, the narrative has been, they're going to close down the deserts. Desert racing is done.
Endangered, dry shrimp bed thing,
whatever it was. And so I believed it. Right. But I can tell you, like, within the first year, when we started actually working with the BLM and understanding that these are people who have a job to do, and their job is to manage the land, the federal land, right? And they're trying to do that job the best they can, right? With actually, unfortunately, the money that goes to them goes right up to the Fed. So it's not like they're sitting on huge piles of money. So they have limited resources, and there's some great people. And, there's also this kind of stereotype that they're like, crazy hippie tree huggers, right? And they're not. Like, a lot of them are off-road enthusiasts. They care about the environment the same way I do, same way that you do. Yep. Like, I don't want to see garbage and destruction of natural habitat. Yep. That drives me crazy. We spend a lot of money and time going out and cleaning up the desert at the Mint cleanup right before the race. And that's not our waste that we're cleaning up. That's people out there dumping and shooting, and, that's not racers. But it's still our desert, and we're going to help clean it up as much as we can. But the narrative of them closing down the deserts, you notice how that's not there anymore.
Not right now. Definitely not right now.
So sure, we have challenges. I know the dunes up in Pismo have had some challenges as of recently. But that's not the narrative anymore. The narrative is that, how can we work together with the BLM to make these things happen? And, I don't get green lit on everything I ask for, because I'm going to ask for a lot, right? I'm swinging for the fences going, what'd be great is if we can drive over this mountain, right? And there's some reason why we can't. And I'm always going to ask. I'm going to keep pushing. And now I've learned to understand that sometimes I'm going to get told no, right? But they've been really good partners in this whole process. I mean, sure, in a fantasy world, would I love to not have to deal with it and just be like, hey, this is where we're going? Yeah, but that's just not reality, So, I'm really fortunate that my brother has had a big handle on managing the relationship between the Nevada Bureau of Land Management, and they've been great to work with. So, the deserts aren't going to close down. If anything, we're going to get more. We see, especially right now under COVID, UTV sales are up 47% with 70% new users. So honestly, what I see the biggest challenge is teaching all those people the tenements of our culture of manage the desert, right? Like, pack in what you pack out, show respect to the other people on the trail. We want to teach them who our heroes are. We want to teach them the history of off-roading and off-road racing, so that they value it and that they become part of the culture and not just a user of a machine.
Yeah, because it's you made some excellent points, and some of the stuff. I'm an avid shooter, right? I enjoy going to the desert.
Me too.
I love going out and shooting targets, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? But you got to clean up your stuff, and I think by doing it, and I noticed you said it before the race, because I think you don't want to set the precedent that, oh, we just did all this stuff, and not just the hazards of it all, but just the perception of it, right? If you're having everybody coming into your playground, you want your playground to look respectable. Number one is doing the right thing. And it's so important. And I'm telling you guys, if you're watching this show, if you're going to go out and you're going to go to Ocotillo or you're going to go to Glamis or anything else, don't be a friggin' douchebag. Pack it in, pack it out. If you're at the races with us or you're somewhere and you're running out of trash bags, come by my camp. I'll gladly give you some trash bags to take your wrappers of something off or your fast food. Just, you got to clean it up. You got to take care of the resources, and that's going to continue to allow guys like you to be able to put on badass races so we're not shitting in our own backyard.
Yeah, basically. I mean, look, like you said before, like I'm a gun guy and I love shooting out in the desert more than I do at ranges, right?
I did hear you're a rollerblade guy,
though. That was in reference to something else. That was UTVing. But that's the thing. Just, throw a mat down, pick up your brass. If you're shooting something out there, go pick up your targets and walk away with the stuff that you shot. That's easy, But yeah, we clean up that desert because, it's our backyard and we're responsible as well. And it's also, that's the Mojave, that's a treasure that we have. I mean, that area of the desert is just, people have no idea. You step off the 15 there a mile and it is just beautiful.
Yep.
I mean, there's still, mountain lions and bighorn sheep and coyotes and different species of snakes and turtles. And I mean, it's crazy that the abundance of life there. And I want to preserve that. I don't want that to be something that is taken for granted. So in 10 years from now, everybody's like, what was here? And the other thing too, is that one thing I can't hit on hard enough is how little of the land that we use, right? We're using a 10-foot section that's 120 miles long of the entire Mojave Desert. Do you know what percentage that is? It's so small, we couldn't figure it out. That's how small. No, I'm serious.
0.0000.
We tried to figure it out because we wanted to talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, we only use 1%. And luckily my brother is way better at math than me. He goes, no, we're nowhere near 1%. Here's how big the Mojave is. Here's the land we use. We're a fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
Yeah. It's just a different perspective. And I think that, it's our duty, as enthusiasts, as off-road racers, or just in general, that you do the right thing. So very cool. Do you guys do stuff? And this, I'm just asking, because now we're kind of on the topic. Do you guys do stuff at all throughout the year at any other other desert cleanup events or any other things to try to do that?
We do a little bit. I don't feel it's enough, right? So part of it is timing. So we have a lot of the trail system that is in the mountains that they really need to do cleanups in the summertime. That's when the weather's correct there for that. And for us, the summertime in Placer City is pretty heinous, right? Brutal. So, there's some geographical challenges there, but like part of our goal was starting the Mint desert cleanup was to really ignite the idea and create a national cleanup day. We are part of that in action sports with the Surfrider Foundation. And, I watched it and participated in it starting in San Diego. And it was like, hey, everybody, we're going to clean up San Diego beaches. Woo, yeah. And very quickly it was the whole West Coast. And then very quickly it was the whole planet. Right. And Surfrider, as well as a bunch of other organizations, were able to get that done. And we'd like to do that for off-road. That's part of why we started that, is to show people like you can, like we partnered with United Site Services, and last year they brought us 20 semi-sized dumpsters that we filled. I mean, it was 20 tons of trash. We were pulling cars, we were pulling washing machines out. So, you can do it and you can have a positive effect, even in areas like where we're operating, where you walk out there and you're like, there's no way we can fix this. There is.
Just to take you can't take a bite of a whole watermelon at once. You got to do it in small sections. So just keep after it.
And then again, the goal is monkey see, monkey do. People see us doing it and they're like, you know what? Our trail's trash. Let's go clean it up. I just had some guys that I donated some some of our clothing brands, some Dirt Co product too, that just said, hey, we're going to go out and as a Toyota club, and they wanted to go out and clean up some of Johnson Valley because they had just been out there and it was pretty trashed. And they said, would you donate some shirts and stuff? And I was like, yeah, man, done.
Yeah, definitely. We want to make sure we stay involved in that stuff too. So keep us in the loop. Ryan Rodriguez checking in said one of the things you mentioned here it'd be cool. It'd be great excitement and reward us blue collar classes to have bigger paybacks and big companies stepping up. I mean, that's guys, we're making an effort. I mean, if you don't see the writing on the wall right now with what we're trying to do with guys like you from the Mint, I mean, we want to inspire. We want to be one of the first in.
It's literally what we're here talking about, right? And we did it last year with Class 10. We raised a pretty significant prize purse for Class 10 by going to the companies that make products for Class 10 and going, hey, will you guys chip in and we're going to give you back some marketing value. And they did. It was great. It was a lot of fun. We plan on doing that, throughout the other classes. Cause trust me, I want to make this exciting, and make it fun for everybody. And it's also about sustainability with these other classes. Like one of our biggest concerns was as UTVs just blew up and just, took over everything and became the biggest class in off-road racing, and it still continues to grow. I think that's great, but I also go, you know what? That's not everything. That's one class of vehicle. Let's talk about all these other classes, and especially the ones who've been racing with us since the beginning, such as Class 11, Jeeps, so on and so forth.
What do you think it is? And we're gonna flip because I got the point. What do you think it really is that makes everybody enjoy Class 11? I mean, you've raced multitude of different classes, trophy trucks and everything else in between. What is it that you can say that makes the Class 11 such a little, I don't want to say taboo, but it's like that best kept,
it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. We just did a feature on a car build that Andrew Buck did. That was an ode to the Herbie Love Bug, right? And it made me feel old because I put that reference out there and all these kids didn't know what it was. And but I think that the VW Bug has a special place in the world, right? And especially for people that are 40 plus, I'd say 30 plus, right? Because most likely it was one of your first cars, right? And one of your friends had a van, right? So you were exposed to this experience where it was like, the smell, the sound of the car, the tactile metal, like all the different things in the car are part of your upbringing and part of your history. And so then to see one of those things come out and race, like it's cool, and I think that's part of it. I also think it's the attainability. It's like when you realize here we are 2020, right? And the VW Bug hasn't been produced in America in 10 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Longer than that now, I think.
People are still fanatical about it, right? And I think, same way. It's like, I think they're super cool. But you can still in 2020 go buy a car, buy a bunch of EMPI parts, right?
Yep.
And go race, right? And you're out there racing for 10, 15, 20 grand. I mean, it's really not that expensive. And I think that, back to what we were speaking about earlier, like that's part of the DNA of off-road culture is anybody can come and do this. You can go build this in your garage. You don't have to be somebody famous, somebody rich, you don't even have to be super genius when it comes to car builds. The knowledge is there. You just have to get some friends and some tools and a car and go do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And then I'm starting to think back, you're like, oh, UTV sales are up, 40% or whatever the number was, right? We said 47%. Yeah. I mean, let that sink in. 47% up sales this year. And then you said 70% are new users. So you're going to have a whole bunch of new people out there, which is awesome, right? And we want to do that same thing for our hobby and our lifestyle. But at the end of the day, we had 20 million cars built.
Yeah.
bugs. Like we got a lot of work room to get through.
No, there's a ton. That's my point is like, to me, it's like old guitars, right? It's like everybody's playing a new guitar and they're like, man, isn't this thing bitching? And you're like, yeah, but there's a whole bunch of Les Pauls sitting over here.
Yeah.
That all you have to do is put the strings on them and you can start rocking, right? And I guarantee you, like, this is a personal guarantee. Okay. If you build a class 11 and you come race the Mint or even another race and you don't have fun, I'll buy the car off you. You know what I mean? It is, you know, again, I've raced all sorts of different classes and it's super fun. It's just a blast. You're going to put your friends in the car. You guys are going to, you know, have a blast, you know, racing, laughing your asses off. And you're going to become better friends. You're going to have a great experience. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're having the same experience that the trophy truck guys do, just at a different economic level.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people don't understand that we're on the same damn course. Giant 40-inch tires and 800 horsepower treading away, and we're trying to go out there 30 miles an hour and make it through the freaking stuff. And that's a blast, man.
Well, you were talking about it earlier. I mean, these cars are amazing. You know, I still to this day, it's one of the things I love is, you know, going to Baja or going to another race and standing in a section of silt bed going, okay, trophy trucks are going to have a hard time getting through this. And then here comes the class 11 right through it, right? Cuts right through it. And everybody's going crazy. Everybody's like, yeah.
Meanwhile, the silt is just over the hood coming in your face like you're just taking it to the dome.
Yeah, they are. And they're having a blast, right?
It's like, hold your breath. It's 3 miles of this shit.
Exactly.
I'm getting through it.
Exactly.
Chris, another great comment from Chris Hill says a trophy truck tire budget would get you a total 11 car team.
Right.
And it really will. That's what, you know, it's not, the thing is not everybody not everybody's cut out to race,
sure.
Right? There's guys that they love the thrill of the competition, but they don't want to drive, right? We've got crew members like that on our own squad that, man, we love it. They love to be around it. They love to chase it. They love to work on it, but they're not racers.
Right.
And and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, totally.
But you could take that old Baja bug that's been in the back of Uncle Ted's backyard in the middle of nowhere, drag that piece of shit out, put a little love into it, and go out and just bash around. Go take it, drag it out with an empty tow bar and go testing with your friends just to chase them around, walkie-talkie yourself on the radio and have fun. Yep. Get outdoors, do something, build something with your hands, guys. Get out from behind the computer, touch something, work on it, create, sculpt, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, it's this idea of energy creates energy. I mean, you're going to find that you're going to smile more, you know, you're going to have great experiences. And yeah, you don't necessarily need to be the guy driving the car to participate. I mean, that's one of the things I love about this culture is there's plenty of people that have contributed, you know, to race teams in different ways, whether it's split times or making the sandwiches or driving the chase truck or, you know, just coming out and supporting, you know, and that community, that culture is what it's really all about. It's
awesome. What do you guys are saying? Hey, what any chance of getting a land rush start for the 11s at the Mint? That would be sick though.
It's possible. We'd have to figure it out. I'm not going to say it's not possible. It's definitely
possible. Let's make this happen.
Happen.
You guys hear it. I mean, that's what's cool about working with you and just the little bit of time we've been able to share together. It's your open-mindedness to willing to try new stuff.
Well, I'm a fan, I mean, that's what you have to remember is I want to see the spectacle of off-road racing. I want to see people having a good time. I want to see people banging doors. Right. And so we try and create races that do that, right? The last thing that I want people to think is that, well, I can tell you this, the Martelli brothers will never phone it in. It's not in our DNA, right? I mean, if you saw the arguments that my brother and I have about the Mint and the UTV World Championship, and it's because we care, right? And now also my cousin Killian, who works with us, has been a big contributor to, the last few years and the success of the Mint and getting more and more into the logistical changes.
That's awesome. It's a rumor mill. The rumor mill's coming through, says a new course this year, or is it really an old course?
Well, that's a loaded question because most of the course out there has been run at some point, not by the Mint, but by other organizations. So what we're not allowed to do currently in that area is to like go cut through the bush, right? But there's a lot of new lines that haven't been run in the last, I think the new lines that we added about 35% of new course. And that's, we tried to figure out the other day, that's hasn't been run by any organization in over 20 years.
So you're saying it's going to be a rough bastard as well?
No, actually, technical. There's some technical stuff, but no, actually, it's the opposite. It's one of the things that if I had a perfect world, we would run a course and then we'd let it rest for 2 years and run and change course. This is what happens when you become a promoter. So there's microorganisms that that grow in the upper crust of the dirt that hold the dirt together, right? And or not microorganisms, but micro plants. And that helps keep the dirt together, right? And when you run a course over and over, then you end up with the rocky silt stuff that we have on a lot of the sections, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily, it's recoverable, but you have to let it rest for a long time. So, what I'd prefer is to change it up every year and then let different course sections work. But that's going back and forth with the BLM and what we can use. We are also borderlined with some wilderness area that we're not allowed to go into, which would actually fine by me because I've hiked into that area and it's magnificent.
Really?
Back in the Joshua Tree Forest area. And again, it's like you're talking about a couple miles off the 15 and you walk out there and you expect fairies to show up and start blowing bubbles and stuff. It's beautiful.
That is awesome. I'm trying to get through this stuff. I mean, you've seen the neat part about it too is you're not like, oh, it's the Mint or nothing. You're really open to other promoters and kind of the grassroots guy. Or we talked about using the analogy of baseball, right?
Sure.
You get the farm league systems, which is kind of your club racing stuff and moving your way up, and we see a lot of buzz going on with King of the Hammers and other stuff like that. It's
Sure.
One of the things that's kind of stuck, and I laugh because it's so true right now with all the rages. Everybody's talking about building class 11s and the big hitter trophy truck guys building class 11s and doing different stuff. But one of the things that keeps sticking with me and I saw was, what's the most exciting class you're looking forward to see this year and why is it class 11? I mean, it's kind of resonates throughout everything right now.
Well, yeah. And I think, visually when you're watching these guys battle through the course, I mean, they're small cars. They have small wheelbase. They have small wheels and you're watching them go through this giant stuff. So, it throws the cars around and you're like, wow, it doesn't look easy. It doesn't look fun, but I can tell you being in the car, it's a lot more fun than it seems.
And we get questions coming in saying, how can we get Matt back in an 11?
I'll race an 11 car. I mean, this is the funny thing is I get offered car rides or car drives periodically. And, my criteria is just, I try and put myself or I try and do it with a good team with good prep. I've already done the spend the night in the middle of the desert thing. And not that it's the end of the world, but like, yeah, I'm down. Like I started this series of articles that I have yet to complete. And the goal was to race every single class and write about it and write about the experience. So I'd like to do that actually.
Well, the offer's there.
All
you
right.
got a class 11 factory backed by EMPI.
I'm in. You tell me when and where. Yeah. I'll buy the tacos.
Done. We're all about that. Like I'm more interested in the tequila and the mezcal you guys were talking about earlier on. So
let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're quite the connoisseur though of the different beverages and whatnot.
Yeah. Going to Baja and then falling in love with Mexico, you get introduced to tequila right away. And usually it's the worst kind, right? And so the experience starts out pretty awful. But fortunately, I was surrounded by people who were like, hey, kid, come here and try this. And then just being like, a culinary kind of nut job. Like I travel by food, like I literally look at where I'm going and go, this is where we're going to have lunch, because I just have this view of like, nobody needs bad food. You don't need another bad lunch or a bad dinner. Even with meetings, like I've been known to change meetings because guys are like, hey, yeah, we'll go here. I'm like, we're not going there, dude. Like, that's like fake Mexican food. I've had real Mexican food. Why are we going to do that? You know, I'd rather have that be a pleasurable experience that you're breaking bread with friends, right? And having some sort of like memory from it, right? And alcohol is the same way. I was actually, I try not to make this too long, but I was never into wine, and my wife took a horticulture class, and we ended up in Guadalupe Valley and, on this wine tour. And the guy who was teaching the class was actually really knowledgeable, and he was breaking down how to identify things using your palate. And I'd never done that before. I was like, to me, it was like, there's beer, there's wine. Which one do you want? Right. And what it taught me, it gave me a lexicon for understanding flavor, right? And that applies to food. It applies to different types of alcohol. It definitely applies to wine. But then trying all these different types of tequila with people in off-road, unfortunately, that's a thing, especially with guys like Sal Fish and my good friend Nate from BF Goodrich. It's like almost like a competition, right? Like to see who can come up with the coolest stuff. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it was like 10 years ago. Well, actually, I'll back it up. I was in mainland Mexico as a teenager, and some of my friends were wanted to introduce me to mezcal, not for the flavor profile, but to get me knocked on the floor. So we were in this bar, and the guy pulls out a radiator, and he pours the mezcal out of the radiator. And I was blown. I was like, oh man, I'm not drinking that. And in my head, I'm thinking this is going to be terrible. Right. And then I had it, and it was very smooth, and it was very smoky. It was really good. And that kind of positive interaction or experience changed the way I thought about tequila, changed the way I thought about mezcal. So then I started asking questions. Well, what about this? And what about this? And the beauty is that, tequila is made in one region using one type of agave, right? Mezcal is made in multiple regions using multiple types of agave, and they have different cooking styles and distillation styles. So you start going down, it's a much bigger rabbit hole, right? And the flavor profiles are much more radically different than tequila. And I love tequila, but I could share some mezcals with you that you would go like, okay, well, why am I drinking tequila? if this tastes like roasted pineapples, and it's just delicious. So, it's also, the other thing that learning about wine taught me is the connection to the land, right? So in off-road racing, you eat dirt. You literally eat dirt, right? Yeah. So you're driving around, and I didn't notice it before, but now I drive through regions of Nevada, Baja, wherever, and now I can identify the taste of the dirt. Like I can go, hey, that's an alkaline, minerally type of dirt. This dirt over here has a different flavor profile, right? And then when you have the wine from that region, it's there, right? That flavor profile is there the same way that the flavor profile ends up in the tequila, right? If you've gone to that region, if you smelled the area and you've tasted the dirt, you can then understand this is why the tequila tastes this way, right? So it's all interconnected, right? And it's one of these bigger spiritual things I never thought about until I went, on different trips, and you're like, oh, dummy, this is why this wine has salinity in it, right? Because it's near the ocean, and that's a flavor profile of wine in Guadalupe Valley, which when you start off with, you're like, whoa, what's this? But now to me, that tastes better than wines I buy in America.
Dude, you're such an interesting cat. I dig it because it's, you never judge a book by its cover. And I love that. And I love just, having lunch with you and the stories of the cheese cave and just that's a part of, it's all about off-roading. It all comes around just the adventure.
Well, it's about experience, right? And if you really let's get real macro for a second, I can tell you, I've discovered this through all the work that we've done that I need this, right? So like we were talking about it earlier, like if I worked a regular 9 to 5, I would still be doing this. And there's a reason for that, because our genetics are on a 2,000 year lag. And you know as well as I do that our ancestors 2,000 years ago were not sitting in front of a computer. You know, they were out, foraging and hunting and gathering and attacking other tribes. So I think that there's something inside of us that we need this visceral experience that wakens something up, right? And it's not just the competition, it's the journey, it's the food, the drink, the whole thing. And once you start realizing that and you start almost like curating it, then everything gets better. Then you're not approaching it from like, oh, we're going to go down here, I don't know what we're going to eat, I don't know what we're going to do. We were talking about our series Legends Rally. Like we learned this on that. By doing that, it's like,
I can't wait for that, by the way.
I know exactly what we're going to do. Here's where we're going to have breakfast. Then we're going to have lunch at the 100-year-old cheese cave in Ojos Negros.
Oh.
And then we're going to go over to the winery in Europan, right? And then we're going to end up on the coast, right?
And that's day one.
That's day one, right?
Have you been to any of that stuff, Eddie? Dude, the adventure alone, Matt, is just like I'm in. I know some of my big friends are chiming in right now. Darren and Lucas are like, yeah, tacos and all this shit. I'm like, dude, I'm in. Yeah. Like, first of all, I get to hang out with guys that I've looked up to, as a kid. Like, I mean, Rick Johnson. Like, dude, I'll like nerd out. I'll show you something that I wrote back in like 7th grade about how like I wanted to meet Jeff Ward and Ricky Johnson and Mickey Diamond.
Totally.
And like, dude, like they're on the same race course. Like, this is so freaking cool. Like, how do you not get into it? And then to have an opportunity to be exposed to new things in life. The adventure for me is everything. It's the journey to get to where we're going to go, man, to build these things, to meet new people, meet guys like you and the Negretes or anybody else we've all met through this. It's the journey of through life, but just stopping for a second and like taking it all in is such a freaking powerful thing.
Sure.
The tacos that we had lunch today, of course, and, and Greg, shout out to Greg, because you missed them. We got some, that's a good spot, but it's just like doing that on a grander scale with the journey and mixed,
Sure.
It's so bitching.
Yeah. It's funny. Like we were talking about Sal Fish earlier, last year he was our legend on the Legends Rally. And, he's getting up there in age. And so when I invited him, I was like, yeah, you can, if you want to ride, in the Razors, you can, but you've done this. So you can just hang out in the chase truck and meet us at lunch and, take a nap or whatever. And he's like, no, I'm riding with you. I'm like, okay, all right. I go, but I'm leading, Sal. And he goes, yeah, I'm riding with you. And then I had Killian with me navigating. And so I said, Killian, get in the back. And Sal's like, no, he's navigating. That's where the navigator sits. So Sal rode and did 2 days with us. We probably averaged 200 miles a day. And I wasn't being crazy or anything, but I also wasn't being slow. Right. And every time I'd look back, and anybody who's rode third seat in the Razor knows that it's not the most comfortable thing. The whole time he's back there, give me the thumbs up. And then when we pull over, he's popping beers with us, so, and like towards the end, he's like, all right, the tequila needs to come out. But no, one of the funny things that happened to us on that particular Legends Rally is there's a rancho that is along the road coming from the coast when you're going back to Europan. And it's one of those picturesque places that I've looked at for the last, I don't know how many years. I'm like, that's a beautiful rancho. And they've got wine grapes in front of it, but it looks like a postcard. Right. And so I had told Sal about it, and I'm like, that one. And he's like, yeah, that one. And, it's in between kind of nowhere. Right. And so we get up to it and he goes, pull over. I want to take a proper look at this place. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we pull over, crack a beer. We're sitting there and this guy walks out and he waves at Sal. And Sal, being like the ultimate ambassador, just goes, hey, man, walks up to the guy, starts talking to the guy. And then he looks over at me and he goes, come on. And I'm like, what do you mean, come on? He goes, well, he's inviting us in. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But we have like 40 people with us, right? So the rest of the cars were coming up behind us. And he's talking to the guy and he goes, no, he says it's fine. So they invited us into their house, which was an Adobe style ranch. And it was this really nice couple who had retired from LA to start making wine. And they had their first bottle of wine that they were about to open when we showed up. And so they opened up their first bottle of wine that they had ever made and shared it with all of us. Right.
That's so cool.
And then I ended up, there's a like a old wives' tale about you always have to get paid for your first batch of alcohol or it's bad luck. Right. And so I gave him $1, right, just as a gesture, and he starts giving me wine, right? I'm like, hey, we hadn't even made it to lunch yet, right? so that's one of the things too about getting off the pavement and being an off-roader is you start subscribing to this mentality of the whole world is going to have this path that they go on, therefore they're going to have the same experience, right? So they're gonna do all the same things. You're gonna go down the freeway. Here's Disneyland. Here's all the known things. Okay, less than 1% of the planet is paved. Let's go explore the rest, right? Yeah. And that's what being an off-roader is about. And it doesn't matter what vehicle you're doing it, where you're at, how fast you're going, whether you're overlanding. It's just going and exploring. And I've been really fortunate to do a lot of that in my life, and I plan on doing a lot more. I've done it in VW bugs. I've done it in VW vans. I've done it in Jeeps. I've done it in UTVs, bikes, right? And all of them have their qualities, right? So that's what, our series Legends Rally is wrapped around doing it in UTVs. We're actually going to do the first one in America here in April in Lake Havasu. So Lake Havasu is a little bit different than Baja, but
I gotta build up my alcohol tolerance apparently and get ready to go.
Totally.
But I one of the things I kind of just sit and I think about is kind of like, it's say what you want, a cliche, but it's like the modern day cowboy. If you really take off-roading at its like raw state, we're just not doing it on horseback. We're doing it with horsepower.
Yeah.
And it could be 50 horsepower or it could be 800, but you're exploring and you're just taking it all in. And that's what's cool, man.
Yeah.
And then just enjoying it.
Yeah. It's been funny lately because there's been a lot of conversation about the rise of overlanding, which I think is really cool, but we've been doing this since day one. Right.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it was pre-running, sometimes it was just going and exploring in whatever vehicle you had. But I really dig it. I think it's cool that people, especially now with what's going on in the world, they're like, let's get out of here. Let's go to some place that our cell phone doesn't work, that we're not having all the inputs, the stresses of current society. You can shut off social media. You can shut off CNN. You can just hang out around a campfire and talk to each other and share a beer and, make some food together, go on a hike or whatever the experience is and really just get analog with it. And I think that's more valuable and important now than it's ever been.
Yeah. I'm trying to find something like that to get my daughter involved, do more outside and, like force me to get out of the house and do some stuff. Cause you get so, beat down in the daily grind of doing stuff. And something that I'm starting with her this coming weekend is that we're going to start doing the geocaching things, going out adventure hunting because she loves treasure hunting and doing other stuff. So I'm like, what better way to start introducing more things and then going out to do a hunt for stuff like that, just to help.
No, that's cool.
Just get out of the house, man.
I don't have any kids, but I have a niece, and she's been driving with us, since she was 9 or 10, right? And so now she's at a point where it's like, we're starting to have these conversations where she's like, hey, so we've been to Shell Reef. What's over here? Right. Yeah. And I honestly can't wait to take her to Baja and share that with her because, that's been a part of my life since I was 12, and I've traveled all over the world. I still continue to. There's a lot of places I haven't been yet that I want to go. Saudi Arabia earlier this year was amazing. I can't stress how impressed I was with that country and how beautiful it was. You know, and especially along the Red Sea, I was chasing Dakar. That was a really cool experience. So yeah, it's just getting your family and your friends and going out and having those experiences. And, you know, you don't have to have, you know, some gnarly vehicle to go do it. It's funny because, one of the properties that we use frequently in Ocotillo, the owner, his daily driver is a topless VW thing.
Yes.
And it's rad, you know, and he just cruises around and he's got all the parts. He's got everything to fix it. You know, he has no problems, completely self-sufficient. So it's cool.
That's, you know, if you think about it, I mean, this is essentially, you know, 80-year-old technology still out grinding it out, showing that you can do it anywhere you want it to be. But
it's amazing. I mean, that, like we were talking earlier about the couple articles that I wrote about an off-road racer about the VW transmission and then the engine, and to think that they were able to design a product back then that we're still enamored with in 2020 is incredible. You know, like it's completely mind-blowing the amount of vehicles that not just they sold all over the world, but like they are still highly functional vehicles, and in many ways more reliable than, you know, our current modern vehicles with all the electronics on it. So it's really cool.
And I even taken a step further, and I was just thinking about this the other day, and I go, you utilize that technology, but look at what it's caused, right? Just at EMPI here, you've got almost 200 employees working hours and hours and hours, moving parts, making parts, locating parts, designing, to still fulfill that 80-year-old technology to this day. It's just crazy to me sometimes. So
totally.
Well, guys, it's been an hour and a half, and this is the kind of vibe. This is the chill thing that just breaks it down. We talk some racing, we talk some life experiences, we talked alcohol, talked tacos. I think we made Greg Cottrell a little jealous about the tacos. He liked the picture from lunch, but yeah, man, we're super stoked. I can't express how much I'm excited for what you guys have going on with Mad Media and the Mint 400, and we're hoping to just be a small portion of it ourselves in whatever facet we can. And dude, thanks for stopping in and hanging out.
Yeah, no, this was fun, man. Next time we'll bring some mezcal.
Yeah, we got clearance on that one, right, Peter? So good. We're breaking up. No, I'm just kidding. But anyhow, man, thanks for coming in. As always, guys, I couldn't do this without any of you guys logging in each week, and I'm super thankful for everything you guys do, whether it's sharing our content, liking our lives when we're working on the cars, stopping in to say hello, or just coming up and saying hi to me at the races and embracing what we're doing here. I really appreciate it from me to you. Thank you. We'll see you guys next week. With that being said, I'm out. Enjoy a couple of the old vintage slides of EMPI circa 1968. We'll catch you next week.